Is everybody on page 56 with their handbooks? Looks like this. So in the blue square here, the pocket knife pledge. First, does anybody have any questions about the safety rules that we covered? Repeat after me. I understand the reason for safety rules.
I understand the reason for safety rules.
I will treat my pocket knife with the respect due a useful tool.
I will treat my pocket knife with the respect due a useful tool.
Due? That means the respect we owe to a useful tool. I will always close my pocket knife and put it away when I am not using it.
I will always close my pocket knife and put it away when I am not using it.
I will not use my pocket knife when it might injure someone near me.
I will not use my pocket knife when it might injure someone near me.
I promise never to throw my pocket knife for any reason.
I promise to never throw my pocket knife for any reason.
I will use my pocket knife in a safe manner at all times.
I will use my pocket knife in a safe manner at all times.
Okay, excellent. So make a safety circle. Before you pick up your knife to use it, stretch your arms around you and turn in a circle. This is to make sure that you're not near something that you don't want to cut or other people. So you want to be outside arm's length of people before you open your knife. So the opening method that we'll be working on today is two-handed. So you're going to hold the body, the frame of the knife in your weaker hand, and you're going to open the blade with your dominant hand. So this particular knife has a hole here. Some will have like a groove or a notch. Some may not have anything.
Or something that you can slow down with the knife.
Yeah. So you'll open it like this with your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm opening it with my right. And then what I want to see you guys do is have your fingers away from the blade and close it with your palms like this. Okay, so we have a variety of knives that we're going to look at. Most of the knives you guys have in your hands, including the denchi, are what your handbook describes as jackknives. So this is a knife with a single blade. It's folding. The blade folds into the handle. Many of the knives, most of the ones you guys have probably have some kind of locking mechanism to prevent the blade from closing, which is something I certainly recommend.
This one doesn't.
Okay, that looks like a multi-tool.
It is.
So
It's like a hammer.
this particular knife here that I'm holding, has a lock called a liner lock. This lock here on the inside, there's a strip of metal that springs open. It's literally on a spring. It springs open and it blocks the knife from closing. It's a very good, practical, basic locking mechanism for a Scout's knife. There's definitely a failure point with the liner lock that you should be aware of. When you have a grip of it in your hand, it's possible, twisting, pulling here, that your finger can actually work the lock inadvertently under torque, and you can have the knife close on your hand. So that's a possibility with a liner lock. This lockback is a stronger lock and is less likely to fail on you than a liner lock. This has a lever on the back of the frame that springs over a hook and connects to the back of the blade here. It's quite a bit stronger. It can fail under load as well, especially if, again, you're squeezing and you squeeze the button close. It can close. So there's no guarantee on that lock as well. This kind of lock, a big thing to be aware of for Scouts is it's very difficult to operate this lock to deactivate the lock without putting your fingers in the closed path of the knife. So to close this, I have to put my fingers in here and squeeze this, and then move the blade off the hook. So there is a point there you need to be aware that a possibility of overdoing it too quickly and cutting yourself. So then I'm going to close my fingers out of the way and close it. So we have a couple multi-tools here. We have two Leathermans here. This is mine. This is another everyday carry tool of mine. And this is Mr. Schaller's, I believe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did he take off?
He took off.
Okay. This has a pocket knife among several other tools inside. It's a pliers style multi-tool, meaning we open the handle and it opens into a pair of pliers initially.
Like mine, it's a hammer and pliers.
Has several other tools inside. The pocket knife is one of those tools, but this is certainly could be a practical Scout's knife. It's a little bit more to operate. This particular one also has a locking design. It's similar to a lockback. It's a little more basic. There's a hook here that a piece of metal drops into. It's not as strong as the other ones, but it's nice that it has a locking mechanism. Mr. Schaller's here has a hammer and a clip. Let's see. Looks like his tools are back here. Here's his knife here. So this one's also got a locking mechanism. So his has a liner lock in it here with a push button. And as with the other Leatherman multi-tool, it's not as strong a liner lock as some of the other knives have. These are good knives for Scouts with the different tools that they have, but they're a little bit slower to open and close. There's a little bit of a trickiness to them. David's knife he brought is a Victorinox Swiss Army, there are a couple of different examples of them here.
It's weird though because they make it to where there's like Scout logos and stuff.
Yeah, sure. They're practical Scout knives in their own right.
And they don't have a locking mechanism.
They are a little tricky to open for a lot of Scouts though, because they've got you got to kind of get your fingernail into this little groove, and you have to overcome a lot of tension to get it open. They typically don't have a locking mechanism, but there's a tension you have to overcome to get it to close. They have a lot of tools, and they're generally pretty small. Some of them are thicker. Can I see yours, David? Thank you. You can see this one's thicker than this one. It just has more tools. The knife is probably the same. So, and this has a finger trigger on it too. Okay, so, all right. So this knife this is actually a really useful kind of knife to have. These partial like assisted opening is right at the edge of what's legal in Los Angeles County. A fully assisted opening blade is not legal in the county. This is. However, I don't recommend this knife for a Cub Scout because it's gonna wind up cutting. It's gonna spring open at some point, and you're not going to be prepared for it. It's meant to open with your finger like that. And then this liner lock is fairly easy to close. But if we try to open it this way, there's a lot of tension to overcome, and suddenly it's going to suddenly spring out at me. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but it springs out pretty quickly. So it's definitely, this is something I'd be careful of for the Scouts. But it's a practical design, and it's a fairly common design. A lot of companies do. There's one more knife I'm going to show you guys that we didn't talk about earlier. This one here. This is very different from the others, even though it looks the same at first glance. No, it's not a butterfly knife. This is a utility knife. Also known as a box cutter. So it's a folding box cutter. So the blade is just this part here. It's not this whole thing. And this particular one has a lock back on it as well. So this kind of knife, we don't ever sharpen. We just change the blades on this kind of knife. We can flip it around and change it. So I definitely do not recommend this kind of knife as a scout knife though, because the blade's not that strong. Although it is very sharp, it's not that strong. It's not something you're going to sharpen, and it's very easy to get cut while changing the blades with these knives. They're also not stainless steel, so they rust pretty easily, and a rusted knife is very, very dangerous.